because my people were all killed.
What about the German people who got killed by your Jewish commissars?
Oh my God!
I am the my mom is Jewish.
Are you fucking kidding me?
And you're actually wholly Jewish. And if you were in the situation of the Holocaust, they would have killed you for that. Because that's all that matters.
No, did you know that Hitler's second? Yeah, what does this have to do with the American
It has
shit?
to do with the fact that you are talking about perpetuating hate.
But what about your
family?
What are you talking about? It's love, man.
Come on, guys. You guys, you had four of us trying to jump
You know
in.
how many men who died in the wars
And then you guys, come on,
for the
man.
right to vote, for freedom of speech?
How old are you, man?
66.
No, actually, we're probably not going to be able to. We're actually.
I don't know. I was here in Obama. I'm here in
Hey,
Bush.
the
and I'm
forgotten,
here with
the
Trump.
men who have been forgotten will no longer be forgotten. You heard that.
Watch your
No, we're
back.
watching it from here.
Welcome back. Pretty crazy stuff, right? Yeah. And that wasn't even the half of it. I came to DC to meet Trump supporters, basically. I wanted to see who they were. I wanted to see why they thought Trump was a good idea, what brought them to this place in their life where they were so frustrated that this man who represents hatred and exclusion was their best bet. My theory in going to DC was that this has to be a group of people that feel forgotten, that feel like society has kind of pushed them aside and disregarded their issues for decades and decades and decades, and that's the reason why they're so frustrated and disgruntled. When I heard this young man talking about how the forgotten men of America will no longer be forgotten, my theory was actualized. That's what I had thought. Usually before every big evolution in nature and in society, which go hand in hand, there has to be some sort of destruction. Over the last 10 years, we've seen the most amazing evolution in humanity. The progress we've made on gay rights, the progress we've made on healthcare, women's rights, and even with the Black Lives Matter movement. Even though that movement some people think is kind of like a negative representation of what's going on in the African American community, in my opinion, it's kind of like a positive. That community is in a place where they're able to have their voices be heard and they're able to speak out. 50 years ago, it would have been almost impossible for that community to speak out on such a scale as they've done now, but thanks to social media and the internet and stuff like that, their message is getting spread like wildfire, which is incredible. But with every sort of evolution, there has to be destruction, because you can't have an evolution without some things dying off. When I saw this child and this homeless man bond over their joint need for validation as human beings on the planet, that kind of just solidified all my theories as to why Trump kind of came about. In one of my previous videos, which I'll link below, Letters to America, I reflected on what I contributed to the Trump election and what I could have done that might have shifted my community, and if other people would have done this, it might have helped too. And my whole theory in that video, or my whole point, was that I made the mistake of just completely devaluing and dehumanizing this populace of American society that was angry, that was frustrated, and I didn't take them seriously. I thought they were just a joke, like so many of other Democrats and liberals did. And I feel like that was our problem. That was our problem even going into the election. That was our problem even with the rhetoric that was used within the Hillary campaign. I mean, when we go high, they go low, deplorable, all these different things. If you're able to step inside the minds of these people and you're able to empathize with their situation, it's not that hard to see how they could choose a bully to be their president. They feel they need someone of this sort of brute to kind of get their message out there, since they feel they haven't been heard in so long. Most of these people's complaints is about healthcare and about jobs, right? And about the minimum wage. The United States minimum wage has been in crisis since about 1968. In 1968, the minimum wage was $8.67. Now, since then, we've had an 8% decrease in minimum wage due to inflation. Technically, if worker productivity was taken into account in today's day and age, and the cost of an actual living wage were taken into account in United States society, our minimum wage should be around $21. Most Americans get paid $15 to $7 less than that and still have to live and provide for their families in today's day and age. Only recently have Americans and worker unions started to fight for the $15 an hour minimum wage. Now, that probably hit some people really, really hard. And these are people that the top 1% isn't really listening to. As we know, Donald Trump does represent the 1%, but if you're this base group, which has been sort of denied by our government the basic needs to function, to be a happy human, all we need is a base minimum of things to keep ourselves going. We need food, water, shelter, and then after that, it's love, companionship, blah, 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 blah. The list goes on. To have access to good healthcare, proper food, and good education. If you haven't had access to that for decades, you can see why a big raging bully would be a good choice. Now, Hillary Clinton is part of the 1%. Let's be real, okay? So she's not gonna appeal to these people in middle America and Ohio and Texas and Florida and people that they don't hang out with her, they don't understand her, and when she uses rhetoric like deplorable, I mean, that's gonna piss some people off. During the inauguration, there were crazy protests.
Protesters just 6 blocks from the inaugural parade, unleashing pepper spray, concussion grenades, all to disperse the crowd. Trash cans, and then 3 vehicles set on fire. Many of the protesters cloaked in black with their faces covered.
And to be quite honest, I was pretty disappointed with a lot of liberals. Yeah. Our whole thing is when they go low, we go high. We had anarchist protesters smashing in windows, burning American flags.
Earlier in the day, self-proclaimed anarchists smashed Washington storefronts with hammers.
And frankly scaring children, families, and elderly that were coming out to support their choice for the president of our country. Now, if we're really going high when they're going low, then the actions that I saw on the day of the inauguration did not reflect that. I would just like some of those anarchists and super left-wing activists to think about the people that they're actually harming when they bust in the Starbucks window. I mean, you're not harming that corporation. That corporation is so wealthy, it's ridiculous. The people that you're harming are the workers that are going in there every day trying to make, you know, ends meet for their families. Those are the people that you're affecting. Anyways, I digress. Parts of the inauguration were great. Very peaceful, very happy. There was a breakout dance party in the middle of the street.
Let's dance! Hey! I'm rapping! We got a brand new dance! We got a movie must say! It's black down people! Walk it by yourself, walk it by yourself and do the Cupid shuffle. Now let me see you do the Cupid shuffle. You're right, Cupid, see you be out of here. On the track, on another human being.
I mean, there was a lot of beautiful things that I saw as well, but I was a little bit disappointed. Mainly what I wanted to do this day was talk to Trump supporters. So I dressed kind of incognito, kind of plainly, no colors, no identification to either side, and I did say I was a journalist from Ohio State. This might have been a little bit of a manipulation tactic, but if I even acted the slightest bit liberal, I know these people weren't going to talk to me. A lot of what you're going to see in this video is sort of my secret reporter techniques, detective, stealthy skills. I live around liberals. I live in a liberal bubble. So what I wanted to do was immerse myself in people that weren't like me. So that's what I did. I joined the Trump lines and I talked to people. I wanted to see what the rest of our country looked like. I know what my bubble looks like and I wanted to get a glimpse into theirs. So I don't really know if any of that made sense. I feel like I was just rambling, but there's so much to say on this issue. And obviously now that Trump has already been elected, looking back on the footage, it's pretty crazy. I want you guys to just take a look at what I have now. And then in future vlogs, I want to investigate if these people's opinions have changed. But for now, here we go. Here's the second video in the inauguration series. I hope you guys enjoy, and yeah, bye.
When he says that he's real, so I believe everything he said. I can believe Donald Trump. If Donald Trump says he's going to do something, Donald Trump is going to do it.
So you feel like in the past politicians, like you can't believe them?
But yeah, you can't believe politicians.
Can't believe politicians.
Yeah, just go with whatever the public wants to hear. They give you what you want to hear. Donald Trump never bent in and said what he needed to say to get the people to vote for him. He said actually the way he felt. And he won. Because now, America's now on a reality trip.
It's true. I agree with you there. We're on a reality trip.
It's time for us to get real now. Yeah. It's
You're right.
Okay, awesome.
Just wait, I got food in my mouth.
It's okay. Where are you from?
Maryland.
Maryland. What's your name?
Oh, you're filming. Okay.
Yeah.
My name is Linda Heilman.
From Maryland?
I'm from Harford County, Maryland.
Got here for pro-life?
I am. Today I'm working with Revelation 3.2 project, but I've also worked with Center for Bioethical Reform. I've done an occasional one with Created Equal, things like that. So I will go where I feel the need is.
Did you vote for? Or did you not
I voted for Trump, not enthusiastically. So I guess at this point I would have to say my political leanings are much more libertarian than anything. I'm not 100% sold out for Trump. He is now duly elected. I strongly and totally believe in the Electoral College. Our founding fathers were brilliant. I do not fall into the, we have to go back to the popular vote, because then we would have a couple of small areas,
right,
and they would all
totally
right. So I totally believe in the Electoral College, and I just knew beyond a shadow of a doubt I couldn't vote for Clinton. I am so against all of the illegal things she did, her lying. I do not trust her. I do not think that as a woman she represents me at all. So there's a lot of things. I mean, basically just Benghazi is enough for me not to vote for her. I don't forget. I also am totally against her stand on the UN, on abortion.
Give me your straightforward position on the issue of abortion.
My position is in line with Roe v. Wade, that women have a constitutional right to make these most intimate and personal and difficult decisions based on their conscience, their faith, their family, their doctor, and that it is something that really goes to the core of privacy.
On health care.
Here's what I believe. The Democratic Party in the United States worked since Harry Truman to get the Affordable Care Act passed. We finally have a path to universal health care. We've accomplished so much already. I do not want to see the Republicans repeal it, and I don't want to see us start over again with a contentious debate. I want us to defend and build on the Affordable Care Act and improve it.
Just many, many issues. So I knew that I would be casting a vote that would be against her, and I used my best vote against her was Trump. I like that Trump is absolutely pro-military, pro-cops, that he is pro-life. It's important, but it's certainly not the only reason. I think that since I have a business background, I think that his fresh input as a businessman to look at some of the issues we have will be really beneficial. And I think sometimes we need to stir up the mud, and I think it's going to be an interesting ride for the first few months, but I don't believe that the president themselves, especially when they're first new to office, has as much power as a lot of people think they do, because we've got the three-part system. So therefore, yeah, he's got a lot of power, but he's also very much hemmed in by a lot of requirements.
Bureaucracy,
so he doesn't frighten me as much as some of these people are just freaking out.
Let's take a moment to reflect on the first week of the Trump presidency. We could do this by dissecting the things that he's done and have made headlines and then attempt to comprehend the ramifications. Or we could just list every single action that he's taken, because I think perhaps the enormity of that alone is quite remarkable. In his first week as president, Donald Trump signed his first executive order starting the rollback of Obamacare. He took control of the nuclear codes and declared January 20 his inauguration day. the National Day of Patriotic Devotion. His White House spokesman lied in his first press briefing by saying the inauguration sizes were the biggest in history, and a senior Trump advisor defended the lies, saying they were alternative facts. He ordered the National Park Service off Twitter after retweeting images comparing Obama's and Trump's inauguration crowds. Trump planted staffers to cheer and applaud at a speech he gave to the CIA. He bypassed anti-nepotism laws to hire his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, as a senior White House advisor. His office confirmed that he would never release his tax records. President Trump withdrew America from the TPP, a multinational economic deal that's been 7 years in the making. It's alleged the president allowed his businesses to take money from foreign governments, which this week saw him face a new lawsuit for breaching the Constitution. The president repeated the claims that the election suffered from mass voter fraud, confirming that he would launch an investigation and claiming that 3 to 5 million votes were illegitimate. Specifically, he raised concerns about people being registered to vote in 2 different states. And while there is no evidence to suggest that voter fraud exists in the millions, this week it was revealed his White House spokesman, whom I mentioned earlier, is registered to vote in 2 states, as is the son-in-law that I mentioned. It was also revealed this week his youngest daughter, Tiffany, his White House strategist, Stephen Bannon, and his Treasury Secretary, Stephen Mnuchin, are all also registered to vote in 2 states. And he reinstated a global gag rule which cuts all US funding from international NGOs that offer and counsel women on abortion. The next day, his party passed a bill that permanently bans American women from using federal funds or private health insurance towards abortion services. He vowed to cut funding to violence against women's programs, as well as national arts and humanities, legal services, minority business development programs, public broadcasting, and the Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy. Trump's administration removed the Spanish version of the White House website and deleted pages on civil rights, LGBT rights and climate change. He overturned the ban on 2 major oil and gas projects the protesters claim could contaminate water and destroy sacred land. He ordered a total media blackout on the Environmental Protection Agency, the Department of Agriculture and Health and Human Services. He also imposed a hiring and regulatory freeze across government agencies, except for the military and some public safety sectors. President Trump drafted orders to temporarily suspend America's refugee intake with an indefinite ban on Syrians. He also announced plans to halve America's asylum program. He drafted plans to suspend new visas for people from Iraq, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan and Yemen. The president also drafted a plan to open CIA black sites around the world to reintroduce torture as an interrogation technique. President Trump moved to redirect allocated federal funds to start building a $20 billion wall on the southern border. After Mexico again refused to pay for that wall, Trump tweeted a suggestion to the Mexican president that he cancel their upcoming meeting. He did. Trump then flagged a 20% tax on imported Mexican goods in order to recoup the cost of the wall. President Trump announced that he will publish a weekly list of crimes committed by immigrants, and he stripped federal funds from US cities that provide sanctuary for illegal immigrants. He also laid the legal groundwork for mass deportation. And that was week 1.
Freaking out over the fact that he's been elected and they think the world is coming to an end. Well, I did not support Obama, but as a Christ follower, I prayed for him and I hoped for the best. I did not go out and riot and throw a fit, and I said, you know, I lived through 8 years of Obama, you're going to live through 4 or 8 years of Trump. Peaceful transfer of power is what America is all about. So it's important that we do that.
Do you have kids?
I have children, yes.
You have children?
My surviving child is multiply handicapped,
okay.
So she has retained her right to vote, but she chose not to vote this year, and that's fine. I will never push her one way or the other. She has voted in the past.
What would I explain if my kids heard some of the things, you know, like especially about women?
I know men, and I know that there's a lot of crude stuff that comes out of men's mouths at certain times. They will say things that they really would never do. So I kind of wrote it off to that and said, well, let's see what he does after he gets elected, because we have all made some big mistakes. I have made some very large mistakes in my life. I have learned from most of them, and hopefully he has learned from his mistakes. And so at that point, we look and we say, give him a chance, see where he goes. I don't think he's particularly against women. I don't think he's racist. I think he's just a very unique individual who sometimes maybe should think a little bit before he opens his mouth. He's a fairly typical male because I know a lot of men that just would say stuff like that. I've been groped, I've been grabbed, I've been catcalled in my younger years. So I've seen men, and that's the way men are. So do you want to emasculate him because he's a man? No, he's a man. Give him the space to be a man.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
It was really nice talking to you.
Okay.
I love how peaceful and eloquent you are. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day. To the parade by myself because Tuesday couldn't get in with her backpack, so here we go.